Greetings everybody. Today we are going to talk about voting. In particular, 5 things that are pertinent to voting which for some reason others don't want to talk about. And in no particular order, let's get started. First and foremost, everyone talks about voting rights. Yes, the right to vote, as in the right for you to choose how to be governed. However, what they are not telling you that there is also a privilege involved here, and it is privilege to determine how others should be governed against their will, which is a very serious decision. And for this reason, one should not take the voting process willy-nilly and act out of emotion or out of spite. When you cast a vote, you pick people who will be making decisions that will be binding for the whole country, or if it is local, then for your state or town. And many other people whom you don't know and whose circumstances you don't know will also be affected by your decision. So exercise your right judiciously and keep in mind that many other people will get affected as well. The other issue, which is also kind of sometimes pops up in my mind when people talk about voting rights, when they talk about access to voting, there is one thing that nobody talks about, and that's voting dilution. What's dilution? Imagine you have a glass, you have a drink which is halfway in the glass, and somebody pours water to fill the glass all the way. So now you have twice as much drink, but it is diluted. Voting dilution is when votes that should not have been casted in that voting section show up from somewhere. Why is that important? The more illegitimate votes are, or inappropriate votes are in your section, the less your personal vote counts. Let's say it is a small town and there are only 10 of you, so long as 6 of you vote for some policy, that policy will pass. What will happen if 11 more votes show up from somewhere? Now we have 21 votes that will be counted in the end, and doesn't matter even if all the 10 of you decide to vote for policy A, if the other 11 votes that came now have voted for policy B, guess what? You're having policy B. So you may have the illusion of having a right to vote, while actually somebody else may be making the decisions for you. So this one, when people talk about making the voting process more robust, pay attention to what everyone is saying. Is this to prevent you from going to cast your legitimate vote, or is this to prevent others who shouldn't be voting in your section coming in and diluting your vote, regardless on which political side you are? Another thing, which is related both to voting and in upholding political ideas in general, is to consider the notion of reason to do something versus the excuse to do something. What's the difference? Reasons pertain to fundamental concepts. Let's say you care very seriously about, let's say, education or about the economy or about inflation, and say such and such party has passed these policies, and these policies are harmful for such and such reason, therefore I have to vote for their opponents. Or such and such party has these beliefs regarding the economy, and they have proven to work in many places, therefore I'm sticking with them. So that's a reason. An excuse is just trying to find one thing and to say, these guys did this, therefore I can never vote for them. Wow. It may matter to you. The issue is no politician and no party are saints. So if you put the standard such as, unless you are a saint, I am voting for the other side, that's the clear indication that we are dealing with looking for excuses. Why do people often rely or sometimes rely on excuses? Well, there are examples how let's say charlatans who sell a product or a course that clearly does not work, and even when they have been publicly exposed about doing so, there are still people who want to sign up for the course or people who still want to buy the product. And when interviewed, but why are you doing that? Didn't you hear that this is bogus? And sometimes they'll give an answer such as, listen, I have nowhere else to go. My life is a mess. This course or this product has to work. Otherwise, I'm really screwed. And this is a coping mechanism. And sometimes people can feel overwhelmed in their lives and overwhelmed by the slew of propaganda that comes from various news sources, and confusion and the issues may appear too complex. So it is not surprising that people may try to cling on to finding an excuse. However, as we remember from earlier, voting comes with the privilege to determine how others should be governed against their will. So yield your right and privilege properly and exercise a greater thought. What can you do when we are dealing with issues with reason versus excuses? You cannot reason with somebody who has already made their mind and is just looking for excuses, because no matter how hard you try, your side has done something, or there is at least one politician on your side who is a little bit weird, and so there will be always an excuse to say, your side is not a saint, therefore they're the devil. This is usually how the one making excuses for their decisions thinks. So you can do that. But you can check if you, by any chance, acting that way. Do I vote for a reason, or do I seek for an excuse to vote the way how I have already decided? One thing you can do it, and what I recommend to everyone who actually wants to have an idea about politics or general issues, you start with listening to sources from the other side. And better you try to find more well-recognized sources from the other side, see what they have to say, and if it is easy to refute them in your mind, then okay, maybe your position is right. You listen to the other side for a while, then go listen to yours and say, aha, now that even makes more sense. Then you go back, listen to the other side, and just you always keep in touch of what others are saying. Even if you want to take politics or public life a little more seriously, thinking like some sort of a war of ideas, then even better. You need to know how the enemy troops are moving. So therefore, you should listen to the other side sources so that to know what their arguments are, and you should come with your own arguments about how to counter them. And here, if we are talking about you seeking reasons rather than excuses to do something, then over time you either solidify your position or you may change your position. Why? Because internally you're still the same person, you care about the same fundamental ideas, but probably after acquiring new information now, it seems that you haven't been taught certain things, and now when you know them, you realize that the ideals you hold could be actually delivered by following the policies of the other side. As you know, truth is stranger than fiction. And that brings us to the last point of the 5 points. And this is often thrown a little bit as an excuse not to vote, by the way. It's called, oh, I'm just doing the lesser evil. Talking about the lesser evil is just a cop-out. When you have, let's say, just 2 candidates or 2 positions and you have a binary choice, almost always one is better than the other. And if you do not make a choice, then a choice will be made for you by the other voters. To say that, oh, I'm not doing this because it will be just voting for the lesser evil, are you saying that if you receive 2 letters from the IRS and one says you owe $1,000 and the other says you owe $2,000, just please sign which conclusion you agree with? How many people are saying, oh, this is just dealing with the lesser evil, I don't care, let me pay $2,000. No, you do whatever possible to pay the lesser amount. So no matter how difficult the choice may be, and often, trust me, lesser evil choices are not difficult at all, because if clearly one is lesser evil than the other, then it is just a slam dunk decision. You just say, okay, this is the policy I care about. So to recap, voting. is an important right, but it is also the privilege to determine how others should be ruled against their will. So please use that right judiciously. Pay attention to voter dilution. When politicians talk about voting access, and especially when they talk about eliminating any safeguards about who can vote somewhere, chances are they want to dilute your vote. And even though they are telling you, oh, we care about your rights, actually they may have already decided what the outcome should be. Excuse versus reason. Make sure that you have reasons that you vote for policies, not an excuse to vote for or against. Listen to the other side. This is the best way to test your ideas and actually to exercise your privilege to determine how others should be ruled against their will. And finally, calling something a lesser evil is just a cop-out if that's used for a reason not to vote. There is always a better choice. Good luck.